Just before going to bed, Liang Wei received a photo from Zhao Lingling. It showed Cheng Yan on stage receiving an award. In the photo, Cheng Yan wore a perfectly knotted tie and a white coat, so sharp it resembled a tailored trench coat. He was the epitome of a young and promising talent. Liang Wei's emotions were complicated. The man in the photo was her husband, yet it took someone else to show her this side of him. Your husband is so outstanding. Don't you feel even a bit of pressure? Zhao Lingling's voice message followed shortly after, her tone slightly tipsy and playful. Zhao Lingling, a former college classmate of Liang Wei's, now worked at the same hospital as Cheng Yan. They had only started communicating after Liang Wei and Cheng Yan got married, exchanging contact information then. Though not close, their conversations always revolved around their mutual acquaintance. Sometimes, Liang Wei even felt that Zhao Lingling paid more attention to Cheng Yan than she herself did. Liang Wei worked at a pharmaceutical company, which occasionally brought her into contact with the medical community. Gossip about Zhao Lingling's past feelings for Cheng Yan often reached her ears. How Zhao Lingling had fervently pursued Cheng Yan during college, and how she occasionally flirted with him even after his marriage. When Cheng Yan's academic paper was recently criticized by peers, Zhao Lingling had publicly stood up for him, causing a small stir. Naturally, Cheng Yan proved his critics wrong with his capabilities. Feeling the conversation dull, Liang Wei exited the chat app and turned off the lights, pretending not to have seen it. Before falling asleep, she considered congratulating Cheng Yan if he came home. However, that night, she didn't wait up for him. Liang Wei was a light sleeper, and when Cheng Yan returned late, he would sleep in the study to avoid disturbing her. Though they lived under the same roof, Cheng Yan's early mornings and late nights meant they could go an entire week without crossing paths. Their relationship could be described as polite, yet there was an undertone of detachment and distance. After all, only those truly close to each other dare to make demands or engage in arguments. Liang Wei took a day off. Every year, she disappeared for this particular day, heading to the cemetery as soon as it opened and standing there for hours. The man in the black and white photo wore a faint smile, frozen in time at a certain age, forever unforgettable. The rights and wrongs of the past were now a tangled mess. Liang Wei chose silence, burying them deep within her heart. She never allowed herself to forget. Each visit felt like a form of self-punishment. As always, she encountered Zheng Wenba's parents. Times seemed to have softened their resentment. In recent years, Zheng's mother no longer displayed the hostility she once did, though she remained cold and distant. Zheng's father, ever kind, stood beside Liang Wei and tried to console her. You young people have your whole lives ahead of you. Don't dwell on the past, look forward. He gazed into the distance, then sighed. We're old now and have little to look forward to, but it's different for you. Watching the couple's lonely figures, Liang Wei felt the weight of his sigh press heavily on her heart. Later that evening, some friends invited her to dinner. They carefully avoided a certain topic, which only made the atmosphere more strained. Numb to it all, Liang Wei couldn't even taste the drink in her hand. Her thoughts spiraled into a chaotic mess, much like the churning in her stomach. Snippets of memory emerged, pulling her back to the moment 5 years ago when it all happened. In her mind, a young woman argued with the man in the passenger seat, oblivious to the car drifting out of its lane. A sports car sped past on the left, narrowly avoiding a collision. The man in the passenger seat reacted quickly, yanking the wheel. But he didn't account for the truck in the right lane. The world ended in a deafening crash. Liang Wei woke from the nightmare only to find herself trapped in another. She saw Zheng Wenba, his body covered in blood. She called his name again and again, desperate to escape the dream, but no answer came. Though she usually handled alcohol well, this time she broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her cries tore through the night, and she found herself calling out a name no one dared mention around her. Through her haze, she felt someone pull her into a firm and steady embrace. Dry hands brushed the hair from her tear-streaked face, and she sank into the softness of her bed. The familiar scent around her offered fleeting comfort. Liang Wei's sleep was restless. In her drowsy state, she sensed a tall figure leaning close. His breath warmed her face, so close she could almost feel it. All these years, even a stone should have warmed up by now, a low voice murmured, carrying a mix of self-mockery and grievance. Liang Wei struggled to open her eyes and see him clearly, but ultimately succumbed to exhaustion. She woke the next morning to the sound of running water. Her head throbbed, and her memories of the night before were fragmented. Chang Yan stepped out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist. Droplets of water trailed down his toned body, tracing the contours of his muscles. As he dried his hair and walked into the bedroom, his face was calm, betraying no emotion. Feeling sick? Want to sleep a little longer? While searching the wardrobe, Chang Yan spoke with a perfunctory air. His back muscles flexed as he moved, their sharp definition impossible to ignore. Liang Wei averted her gaze, her voice soft. "I'm fine." Cheng Yan said no more. Within minutes, he was dressed and ready to leave, looking as polished as ever. Yet the coldness in his demeanor remained. Even Liang Wei, oblivious as she often was, could sense his displeasure. After all, his wife had spent the night drinking and needed to be fetched home in such a state. Any man would be upset, let alone someone who valued time as much as Cheng Yan. Liang Wei wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but found herself at a loss for words. Were other couples able to share their thoughts so openly? Clearly, she and Cheng Yan had not reached that level of intimacy. While she hesitated, the sound of a car engine starting downstairs told her Cheng Yan had already left for work. Frustration bubbled up within her, though she couldn't pinpoint its source. The atmosphere at home seemed to grow colder with each passing day. Liang Wei suspected that Cheng Yan was deliberately avoiding her, though she had no evidence to prove it. After all, Cheng Yan's daily life revolved around his work. Nearly all his passion and energy were devoted to it. Living with them was Cheng Yan's widowed mother, Lin Suping, who resided on the first floor of their two-story villa. Lin Suping, with her air of intellectual pride and aloofness, epitomized the demeanor of an old-fashioned scholar. When Cheng Yan was away, Liang Wei and Lin Suping shared silent dinners and then went about their separate activities. Despite the lack of words, their interactions were surprisingly harmonious. But Liang Wei never imagined that one day, Lin Suping would make an arbitrary decision to bring home a child. Seeing the infant, no more than 4 or 5 months old, swaddled in a blanket, Liang Wei froze. A chill spread through her body, from her head to her toes. Lin Suping had never commented on Liang Wei's failure to conceive in the 3 years since her marriage. A retired obstetrician, she had never used her professional expertise to pressure Liang Wei, for which Liang Wei had been secretly grateful. Now, this sudden turn of events hit her like a thunderclap. "Why are you glaring at me like that?" Lin Suping glanced at Liang Wei, holding the baby close and turning her back. "If you don't want to raise it, I will." Liang Wei's hands clenched tightly at her sides as she trembled. Reason told her to stay calm and have a proper conversation with her mother-in-law, but her thoughts were in turmoil, disrupted by the sudden arrival of this little life. Lin Suping was usually stern, and Liang Wei often thought to herself how mother and son might not look exactly alike, but they shared the same distant and unapproachable demeanor. At this moment, Lin Suping's perpetually austere face bore an unyielding determination. She had made a monumental decision on Liang Wei's behalf, leaving her feeling stifled and powerless. In this household, the only person Liang Wei could align with was Cheng Yan. With this in mind, she rushed upstairs and quickly dialed his number. The endless ringing felt like a futile effort, but just when Liang Wei was about to give up, a familiar, clear voice answered. "Liang Wei." "Cheng Yan, when are you coming home tonight?" She blurted out before he could say anything more. Did something happen? Even the calmest of people would feel a pang of concern hearing the tremble in her voice. Unable to explain over the phone, Liang Wei merely repeated, "When are you coming home?" True to his word, Cheng Yan arrived within half an hour. From a distance, Liang Wei saw the headlights of his car, and for the first time, she felt an intense longing to see him. It was as if a ray of light had pierced through the gloom in her heart. As soon as Cheng Yan stepped out of the car, Liang Wei was at the door, waiting for him. In a flurry of words, she poured out her distress, eager to pull him into her camp. Cheng Yan looked at her, panicked and flustered as if facing a great calamity, and couldn't help but chuckle. In fact, he did laugh, his voice soft and relaxed. Liang Wei, why are you so worked up? Startled, Liang Wei looked up at him, incredulous. We're talking about adopting a child here. Why are you all acting like it's as simple as bringing home a stray cat or dog? Have you even thought about the challenges we'll face in the future? Cheng Yan interrupted her, his expression calm and penetrating. In the glow of the porch light, his fair complexion made his gaze seem even more profound as he looked directly into her eyes, as if he could see through her. So, the real issue is that you're not ready yet, right? Liang Wei was momentarily at a loss for words. She had always taken careful precautions. Was it because she wasn't ready? Or had she never intended to be? This matter, Cheng Yan continued. Mom mentioned it to me before. The child belongs to a distant relative from our hometown. Knowing her personality, I should have expected her to act on it. Seeing Liang Wei stunned and overwhelmed, Cheng Yan softened his tone. I'm sorry for not preparing you in advance, but it's not set in stone that we'll adopt. For now, we're just taking care of the baby. Besides, it's not like we can't have our own children. Liang Wei stood frozen, her mind finally catching up. She realized she had been overthinking the situation. This wasn't about whether she was ready or not. It was irrelevant. Cheng Yan's dismissive attitude gave her no comfort. Just as she was about to press him further, he had already disappeared into the bathroom. Although Lin Suping insisted she could take care of the baby, Liang Wei couldn't bring herself to stand idly by. That night, lying in bed, she had just picked up the book on her nightstand when the baby's cries downstairs interrupted her. She tried to ignore it, but the sound seemed determined to fight her resolve, growing louder and louder. Even burying her head under the covers was futile. Moments later, Cheng Yan glanced up to see Liang Wei standing at the door to his study, her hair messy and her face full of despair. He couldn't help but laugh. What's the matter? Liang Wei didn't answer immediately. Cheng Yan didn't press her, returning his attention to typing on the keyboard. The glow of the monitor reflected off his sharp, composed features. Awkwardly rubbing her arm, Liang Wei hesitated. Confronting Lin Suping downstairs felt far less appealing than relying on Cheng Yan as the intermediary. Finally, in a pleading tone, she suggested, "How about you bring the baby upstairs?" Cheng Yan didn't look up, but his hands paused on the keyboard. After a brief moment, he put aside what he was doing and walked over to her. Liang Wei felt nervous, but all Cheng Yan did was glance at her to confirm she was serious, then turned and headed downstairs. Back in the bedroom, Liang Wei waited for quite some time before Cheng Yan returned with the baby. Clearly inexperienced, his posture was awkward, but the infant in his arms had already fallen asleep. Suppressing a laugh, Liang Wei carefully took the baby from him. The child was small and light, a soft bundle in her hands. Seeing the baby up close for the first time, a little girl with cherubic features and puffy cheeks, Liang Wei felt her heart instantly melt. Despite her amusement at Cheng Yan's ineptitude, Liang Wei realized she was no better. Nervously, she laid the baby down beside her, making sure she was comfortable. Cheng Yan, who had been observing silently, finally spoke. "So, she gets the big bed too? Where am I supposed to sleep?" Without turning around, Liang Wei pointed in the direction of the study. Cheng Yan turned and left, but less than a minute later, he returned, flopping down onto the bed with exaggerated ease. After all, there was enough room for everyone. Both their attention remained on the baby. Liang Wei had seen friends post pictures of their adorable children, but she never imagined the challenges of caring for one. Every hour or two, the baby woke up crying. Relying on their phones for guidance, The two clumsily learned to mix formula and change diapers, fumbling through the process. By the time they managed to calm the baby, it was already the middle of the night, and they were utterly exhausted. Lying on her side, Liang Wei studied the baby under the dim glow of the bedside lamp. This tiny being, so fragile and innocent, stirred feelings of protectiveness in her. She couldn't imagine adopting her, but the thought of leaving an elderly woman to care for the child alone was equally unbearable. Chang Yan lay beside her, wrapping an arm around her in a protective embrace. Their heartbeats seemed to synchronize as they lay together. It had been a long time since they'd shared such intimacy. Familiarity with each other's bodies had dulled the urgency, and though they felt a spark, neither had the desire to take it further. For now, this quiet moment was enough. Chang Yan had always exuded steadiness and reliability, a trait that comforted Liang Wei now, as it had in the past. After the car accident, Liang Wei had spent nearly 2 years in a depressive haze. Sleepless nights and disinterest in her surroundings took a toll on everyone around her. One restless night, she sat by the bay window, staring at the dim stars outside. She wanted a clearer view and opened the window, only for her parents to burst into the room within seconds. Caught off guard, Liang Wei stammered, I just wanted some fresh air." Her mother broke down in tears. "Can you stop dwelling on the past? Why won't you sleep at night? Can't you live your life properly? Do you have any idea how much we worry about you every single day?" That night, Liang Wei finally realized that life wasn't just about herself. Determined to move forward, she began to live more earnestly, meeting new people and embracing new experiences. It was during this period that Cheng Yan entered her life. Because of her work, Liang Wei often visited the hospital. At the time, a new drug was undergoing clinical trials, and her frequent interactions with Cheng Yan naturally brought them closer. They had been university classmates, and though their paths had crossed only briefly, that shared history fostered a sense of familiarity. Outside of work, it was evident to everyone that Cheng Yan was pursuing Liang Wei. A colleague even teased her. "We all thought Dr. Cheng was some untouchable, otherworldly figure, and here you are, bringing him down to earth." Liang Wei merely smiled. Cheng Yan's approach wasn't overly passionate, but steady and persistent. He occasionally asked her out and sent her messages now and then, just enough to leave an impression. After the tumultuous end of her relationship with Zheng Wenba, Liang Wei couldn't handle another intense, roller coaster romance. Cheng Yan's quiet companionship was exactly what she needed. Their time together was always relaxed and comfortable. After several months of this gentle courtship, Cheng Yan suddenly proposed. Liang Wei was surprised, not because she opposed the idea, but because everything seemed to be moving so quickly. After a long silence, Cheng Yan explained, "We both need to settle down eventually. I think you're the right person for me. Do you think I meet your expectations?" They were standing by the river. The calm water was disrupted by the passing of a large ship, creating ripples that shimmered in the sunlight. As the boat's roar faded, Cheng Yan heard Liang Wei's soft reply, "Yes." After their marriage, she would fall asleep nearly every night in this enclosed embrace. She no longer stayed awake through the night, replaying those fragmented memories. Undeniably, during that time, Cheng Yan gave her a profound sense of security. When did she and Cheng Yan begin to drift apart? Though they treated each other with respect, an invisible barrier always lingered between them. Transparent, yet unbreakably solid. Perhaps it was when the initial novelty wore off, and they entered a stage of routine tranquility, following the predictable patterns of most marriages. Besides, someone like Cheng Yan would never let romance consume too much of his energy. She was the ideal partner for marriage, from a good family, well-educated, poised, and even beautiful. Once the dust settled and the task of building a family was complete, Cheng Yan's sole pursuit became his career. Liang Wei even found this arrangement agreeable. She didn't want to delve deeper into other reasons. Since she couldn't respond passionately to their relationship, she likewise refrained from demanding much of him. There were no extra texts or calls, no checking in on her husband's whereabouts, and no jealousy over anyone who showed too much interest in him. Liang Wei gave Cheng Yan complete freedom. So much so that, at times, Cheng Yan would suddenly remember, almost in surprise, "Oh, I'm a married man." The next morning, they both sported dark circles under their eyes and bumped into each other at the bathroom door, sharing a smile that felt like a conspiratorial bond. During the day, Lin Suping took care of the baby. They had also hired an experienced nanny temporarily, and at night, the young couple would take over. Though all three adults were utterly exhausted, the baby's every expression and action could easily fill the room with laughter. Liang Wei quickly adapted. At night, whenever the baby cried, she would get up immediately to soothe him, not wanting to disturb Cheng Yan, who needed more rest. But Cheng Yan was sensitive to the baby's cries. Half-jokingly, he teased Liang Wei, "When we have our own child in the future, we'll definitely make a great team. Don't worry, I won't leave all the work to you." Liang Wei glanced at him briefly but said nothing, kneeling on the bed with the baby in her arms, gently coaxing him to sleep. Her voice was soft, her hair falling loosely, and under the warm, dim light, she exuded a maternal glow. However, even brighter than that glow was the look in Cheng Yan's eyes as he watched her intently. The household atmosphere began to warm. They seemed to forget the vague Cold War from a few days earlier. Home was becoming more inviting. The previously workaholic Cheng Yan now hurried home eagerly after work. Yet separation came sooner than Liang Wei anticipated. A week later, the baby's family came to take him back. The baby belonged to a distant relative of Lin Suping's. The family's daughter, just barely an adult, had realized she was pregnant too late for an abortion and had to give birth. They initially planned to give the baby up for adoption but hesitated after his birth. They sought Lin Suping's advice, and she suggested bringing the baby home for a few days. Everyone assumed Lin Suping intended to adopt him because her daughter-in-law was unable to conceive. After experiencing the pain of separation, the family regretted their decision and came to Lin Suping. Surprisingly, she agreed without hesitation to return the baby. Only then did they realize Lin Suping's good intentions and thanked her profusely. Lin Suping gave her son and daughter-in-law a meaningful look but said nothing more. The one who was most reluctant to accept the baby at first turned out to be the one who struggled the most to let go. The baby had awakened Liang Wei's maternal instincts, and a week was enough to form a deep bond. Yet, no matter how much she couldn't bear to part, she knew the baby had never truly belonged to her. She leaned against the headboard, scrolling through her phone's photo album. Cheng Yan had just finished showering and sat on the edge of the bed, watching her for a while before she noticed. "If you like children so much, why don't we have one of our own?" Cheng Yan's voice carried a low, magnetic timbre that was undeniably seductive. But the way he said it sounded more like diagnosing a problem and prescribing a solution. He wore a loose robe, and from Liang Wei's angle, his high-bridged nose made his profile appear sharp and defined. Yet, the slight curve of his lips added a hint of softness. He was as contradictory as ever. Just when you thought he was distant and aloof, he would unexpectedly show warmth, leaving you defenseless. That evening, Cheng Yan was unusually patient. Seeing Liang Wei's dazed expression, he added in a teasing yet earnest tone, "I'm ready anytime. It's up to you." It was their first time discussing the topic, and the words, "up to you," placed all the decision-making power in Liang Wei's hands. She had been secretly taking short-term contraceptive pills, though even she couldn't fully explain her reasoning. She simply felt her previous state of mind wasn't enough to embrace a new life. But she had completely overlooked Cheng Yan's longing. What had he done wrong? Liang Wei suddenly realized how emotionally distant she had been as a wife. Liang Wei furrowed her brows, trying to find the right words, only to be silenced by a kiss that carried a hint of dominance. Cheng Yan didn't let her finish her sentence. It had been a long time since they had been intimate. The spark ignited quickly, and any unsaid words dissolved into action. Sensing her response, Cheng Yan reciprocated with even greater passion. Liang Wei had always thought physical intimacy wasn't that important. Now, she realized it could be an expression of emotions. Two people could be so drawn to each other, inseparable. As she reached the peak, Liang Wei thought, let's do it. Let's have a child. She began to believe that everything might turn out fine. The past should remain buried deep in her heart, no longer allowed to disrupt her life. This small episode brought them closer than before. The calls and texts became more frequent, and Liang Wei felt constantly cared for, almost as if they had started a new romance after marriage. But happiness can never be built on forgetfulness and self-deception. A minor disruption is enough to shatter the illusion of peace. On their third wedding anniversary, which fell on a weekend, they had reserved a restaurant and planned out dinner together after Cheng Yan finished work. That afternoon, Liang Wei received an unexpected phone call. On the other end, Zheng Wenba's mother's anxious voice pleaded, "Your uncle Zheng suddenly collapsed. I don't know who else to call. Can you come and help?" The urgency of the situation prompted Liang Wei to rush to the hospital. Outside the emergency room, Zheng's mother was pacing anxiously. From a distance, she looked like a withered autumn leaf, frail and adrift, her figure worn and desolate. When Zheng's mother saw Liang Wei, she clung to her as if grabbing onto a lifeline. "Your Uncle Zheng has always been healthy. Who would have thought he'd collapse like this? If something happens to him, what will I do all alone?" Liang Wei couldn't muster any comforting words. The two elders, having already lost their only son, could barely weather any more hardships. And whose fault was that? After the accident, Liang Wei often visited the Zhengs to check on them, promising to take care of them as if they were her own parents. However, Zheng's mother grew emotional whenever she saw her. Persuaded by Zheng's father, Liang Wei stopped visiting, though she could never shake the guilt. At that moment, however, Liang Wei knew she had to step up. She helped Zheng's mother to sit on a bench just as the emergency room doors swung open. Out came the doctor, Zhao Lingling. Liang Wei and Zheng's mother hurried over. Zhao Lingling paused, momentarily surprised to see Liang Wei. Her gaze swept over their clasped hands with a fleeting, icy realization, though she spoke in a detached, professional tone to explain the condition. Two minor blockages in the heart's arteries required a stent surgery. Liang Wei accompanied Zheng's mother through the flurry of paperwork, payments, and signatures. When a nurse asked if she was the patient's daughter, both Liang Wei and Zheng's mother fell silent. Once everything settled, Zheng's mother wiped her tears. "I used to resist reality, but I know deep down it was just an accident. If not for you, I wouldn't have known what to do. If Wenba were still here, you'd have been my daughter-in-law." "Auntie," Liang Wei wanted to explain, but felt there was no point. She simply repeated, "I'll treat you and uncle like my own parents from now on." By the time Liang Wei returned home, it was late evening. Cheng Yan was sitting on the living room sofa, watching sports with a beer in hand. Several empty cans were scattered on the table. Only then did Liang Wei remember their anniversary dinner. She walked over, sat next to him, and apologized. "I'm so sorry. I forgot about our dinner plans." "It's fine. I already canceled it," Cheng Yan replied, his gaze fixed on the screen, his tone indifferent. "What happened?" "Nothing major," Liang Wei answered as she stood and headed toward the bathroom. "A family member was hospitalized, and I need to help out for a while." Cheng Yan watched the bathroom door close. He leaned back on the sofa, a defeated smile curling his lips, though his eyes were cold. His mood had been fine all day, until he ran into Zhao Lingling in the parking lot. She told him about seeing Liang Wei at the hospital. "She didn't tell you about something like this?" Zhao Lingling's tone was sharp with mockery. "You're in the same hospital, just a few steps away, and yet..." Ignoring her sarcastic remarks, Cheng Yan slammed his car door shut. He'd gone to the ward and seen it with his own eyes. In that moment, he felt like an outsider, just as he did now, excluded from her world. When Cheng Yan climbed into bed later, Liang Wei was already asleep, curled up on the edge in an evasive posture. Perhaps it was the alcohol, but a wave of bitterness washed over him. He thought back to their university days when Liang Wei was much more outgoing than she was now. They'd only crossed paths a few times during large lectures, yet she left a deep impression on him. Even in a crowd, his eyes would land on her first. Once, when she missed a class due to illness, she had to make up for it during a lab session. They were grouped together, and Chung Yen found her hesitant yet determined demeanor both amusing and endearing. Though she was scared of handling the lab animals, she forced herself to try. Chung Yen offered to take over most tasks, asking only that she record data. However, Liang Wei insisted on fully participating. Overcoming her initial fear, she performed remarkably well, and Chung Yen admired her hands-on attitude. From then on, Chung Yen couldn't help but see her differently. Yet at the time, he hadn't realized what those feelings meant. It wasn't until years later, when work brought them back together, that Chung Yen understood the emptiness he'd felt back then. Some people change over time, yet the feelings they inspire remain the same. Chung Yen decided to take a chance. Before their marriage, he knew Liang Wei hadn't fallen for him completely. Some events leave permanent scars, like how the car accident gave her hemophobia, forcing her to leave clinical medicine for the pharmaceutical field, or how she suffered from sleepless nights. Chung Yen had hoped that with time, she would open up and fully accept him. But a year ago, he discovered she had been secretly taking contraceptive pills. He couldn't describe the feeling, perhaps disheartened. He had gone to such lengths to keep her by his side, yet he couldn't reach her heart. That dark, thorny corner of her soul seemed endless, and he was starting to doubt if he'd ever find its end. Zheng's father always felt bad about Liang Wei's care for them. He said, "Actually, you don't have to do this. We're not your responsibility. You've already done so much for us." Liang Wei kept her head down, focused on peeling an apple, without replying. Zheng's father sighed. "You haven't been happy these years. You torture yourself with guilt, but it doesn't help anything. Your aunt, and I don't want to see you like this. I can tell your husband is a reliable person. Sometimes, it takes more courage to start a new chapter in life than to dwell on the past. The people around you need your attention too. A person has to learn to let go to be happy." When Chung Yan's name was mentioned, Liang Wei paused her actions, her mind wandering. She hadn't had a real conversation with Chung Yan for a long time. He had been very busy lately, preparing for an upcoming exchange event. If Zheng's father hadn't mentioned it, Liang Wei wouldn't have known that Chung Yan had visited the elderly couple. Actually, Chung Yan initially only wanted to show concern as a doctor for their health, but in the end, he introduced himself to the elderly couple. "I'm Liang Wei's husband. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me." Zheng's father recalled his sincere expression, not a formality, but something that couldn't be faked. When Zheng's father was finally able to be discharged, Zhao Lingling couldn't sit still any longer. She pulled Liang Wei into her office and gave her an examining look. "Don't tell me you plan to take care of them for the rest of their lives, to send them off in their old age? Are you really unable to let go of your ex?" Liang Wei remained silent. Some things, when spoken, become a long story, and others might not understand. Zhao Lingling took her silence as an admission and grew even angrier. "You really think of yourself as their daughter-in-law? Have you thought about Chung Yan's position? If you don't care about his feelings and don't cherish him, someone else will care, someone else will cherish him for you." Liang Wei suddenly looked up, her tone calm yet firm. "I'll handle my own matters. And Chung Yan is my husband. I don't want other women paying too much attention to him." She walked to the door and placed her hand on the handle. "Also, if Chung Yan had even the slightest interest in you, you two should have been together in college. Then I wouldn't have anything to do with it." It was the first time Zhao Lingling had heard Liang Wei assert her claims so strongly. After a moment of stunned silence, she realized how pointless her actions had been. This couple seemed awkward, but it really wasn't her business. Yet, she couldn't help herself and often tried to provoke Liang Wei, hoping it would make her feel a sense of crisis and pay more attention to her own husband. But Liang Wei always reacted so indifferently, and she felt sorry for Chung Yan. If she couldn't get the person she liked, at least she wanted to see him live a good life. That was Zhao Lingling's view on love. Today's Liang Wei truly made her see her in a new light. It was only when Liang Wei returned home that she learned from Lin Suping that Cheng Yan had gone to attend the academic exchange and left early. Later, Liang Wei came across a post on Zhao Lingling's social media with a location near the hotel where Cheng Yan was staying. The post showed dinner, and whether intentionally or not, a hand could be seen in the corner of the photo. Liang Wei recognized it immediately. It was Cheng Yan's. Zhao Lingling's words echoed in her mind, and she wondered whether Cheng Yan would misunderstand as well. She suddenly felt a panic of losing him. Liang Wei dialed Cheng Yan's number. The line was noisy, and Cheng Yan's voice sounded muffled. She held the phone, fidgeting, knowing she should say something. When she finally realized it, she found herself struggling to speak, to tell the story she had thought would stay buried in her heart forever. Back then, when Liang Wei was about to graduate, Zheng Wenba had returned to their city after his further studies. Liang Wei had just gotten her driver's license and wanted to surprise him, but at the train station, she saw him from afar, embracing and kissing a woman passionately, unwilling to part. Had Zheng Wenba been honest and discussed breaking up with her, Liang Wei felt she could have accepted it. But instead, Zheng Wenba sat in the passenger seat, acting as if nothing had happened. The anger from being deceived and betrayed, combined with the intense disappointment, made it hard for Liang Wei to stay irrational. She regretted countless times that they could have sat down at another time and talked it through, but she couldn't hold back and confronted him. Zheng Wenba's explanation was indifferent. He admitted that he had spent some time with the woman he met during his studies, but they had returned to their respective cities, so it was bound to end. Wei, I wasn't serious with her. We should still stay together and live a good life, he pleaded, his voice coaxing, and those were the last words he said to her before everything happened so quickly that she couldn't even react. For a long time, she couldn't remember how the incident had unfolded, except for the recurring nightmares that reminded her of the details. Cheng Yan, I'm not obsessed with my past relationship. I just feel like a sinner. I killed Zheng Wenba. If I had been more rational back then, it wouldn't have ended like this. This was the first time she had spoken about the past. Liang Wei's voice quivered, and she suddenly realized that expressing those painful memories out loud made them feel much lighter, as if the wind could blow them away. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, and then Liang Wei heard Cheng Yan's low voice. Can we talk when I get back? It's not a good time right now. Lin Suping heard the noises upstairs and soon saw Liang Wei coming downstairs with a suitcase. It was the weekend, and Liang Wei had decided to go to Qingyan City. Lin Suping only reminded her to be careful on the road and didn't stop her. After transferring from the high-speed train to a taxi, Liang Wei arrived at the hotel where Qingyan was staying in the middle of the night. Standing in front of the door, she felt an uneasy nervousness as she knocked. Liang Wei sensed something unusual in Qingyan's words. The phrase, "not convenient," inexplicably triggered a sense of panic within her. Qingyan stood at the door, fully dressed and clear-headed. For a brief moment, a look of panic flashed across his usually composed face, which Liang Wei caught, and her heart skipped a beat. "Why are you here?" Qingyan blocked the door, not offering to let her in. "What's inside that I can't see?" Liang Wei peeked inside. Qingyan knew he couldn't hide it, so he moved aside to let her in. The small room was laid out in a way where she could see everything at a glance. The only thing that caught her attention was a white shirt on the sofa, with a shocking dark red stain on the sleeves. Liang Wei furrowed her brow and immediately began searching for his injury. "It's just a small injury, I'm fine, Liang Wei. Calm down," Qingyan said, finally yielding to her. She rolled up his sleeve to find the wound had already been bandaged, with faint traces of blood seeping through the white gauze. Liang Wei felt dizzy, her face went pale, and her voice trembled. How did this happen?" Qingyan pulled down his sleeve to hide the wound, pressed her gently into the sofa, and poured her a glass of warm water, trying to shield her from the sight, fearing she would faint at the sight of blood. They had just left the restaurant, and Qingyan had been walking on the outer side when an electric tricycle sped by and scratched him. Liang Wei had called him just as he was dealing with the injury. He had long hoped that Liang Wei would open up to him, but every honest word she said pierced his heart like needles, leaving him with nothing but pain. He wanted to hug her, but with the distance between them, he couldn't do anything. His colleagues were nearby, so it wasn't the right time to discuss things in detail. The phone call ended hastily. "I'm sorry." Liang Wei lowered her head, speaking quietly, apologizing for her misunderstanding. Jealousy had clouded her judgment. She should have trusted Cheng Yan. Cheng Yan leaned down, his dark eyes intense, his lower eyelids slightly drooping. He looked directly at her before pulling her into his embrace. "I'm really happy, Liang Wei. I didn't know you cared about me so much." She cared enough to travel hundreds of miles in one night. He covered his face, feeling both elated and bittersweet, realizing that after waiting so many years, his feelings had finally been met with such a passionate response. That night, Cheng Yan revealed his childish and proud side. Using his arm injury as an excuse, he coaxed Liang Wei into helping him take a bath. The two of them ended up in a chaotic, exhausting struggle before collapsing onto the large bed, too drained to fall asleep right away. In the dim light, Liang Wei heard Cheng Yan's voice. "From now on, if there's anything, I'll help you take care of the Zheng family's elders. You don't have to bear it all alone." Some things could only be endured, not consoled. After the incident, everyone kept telling Liang Wei that no one wanted it to happen, that it was just an accident, and it wasn't her fault. Those clumsy words of comfort had become tiresome to her. Only Cheng Yan said he would share the burden with her. Liang Wei half lay on him, her ear resting on his heartbeat. His voice came to her through the vibrations of his chest. "I'll go with you to see him from now on." It turned out, he had always known about the time she wanted to erase, the days she hid away in private regret. He understood all of it. In the silent stillness, Liang Wei felt an unprecedented sense of calm and security. She looked at the warm yellow light from the wall lamp, its rays gently illuminating her darkened heart.